What's up guys, it's me, Strawhead Nate, and I'm back this week with another One Piece chapter video. This week we have chapter 1141 of One Piece, titled Older Women. It's a strange title to say the least, but the comedic title doesn't completely convey the entire mood of this chapter. While yes, much of the chapter is comedic bits up in the Western Village with people like Usopp, the chapter in the second half gets really serious really quickly. From what you saw in the title of this video, Loki is awake and has been freed by the end of this chapter, despite the pleas from the giants such as Haruden, Loki's half-brother. That means that according to Elbaf prophecy, Ragnarok is now beginning. To hear more about the freedom of this legendary giant, just wait till the end of this video. And without further ado, let's begin going through the chapter after you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The cover this week, once again, is a continuation of the Yamato cover series in the land of Wano. And in this one we see that Who's Who has moved on from torturing Ulti and is now torturing her younger brother, Page One, while she is forced to watch. Yamato could be interfering here and doing something about it, I guess, but she really isn't allies with either side of this conflict, so I guess she just needs to sit back and watch. Now, to begin the actual chapter, Nami is leaving the castle along with Road and the injured giant guards. And she's just disappointed that there was no treasure in the castle that she could steal. And they're en route to the village to go get a doctor to deal with the injured giant guards, while Luffy and Zoro split off to go to the underworld in order to free Loki. But that's it for that short scene to start the chapter, and then we get another short scene here with Frankie and Ripley. They are still examining the Atom Tree, and Ripley shows him a giant branch that was cut off. She explains that this huge branch once held a village called the Haugen Village, and they had to cut it off because the village was ablaze in a giant fire. That's when she tells Frankie about the Elbaf tree's biggest weaknesses, which are fire and lightning. And that has to be a warning of the potential catastrophe here on Elbaf, probably due to Ragnarok. Now, back in the Western Village, Nami has returned to the crew and the giants, who are still partying, and then a clearly drunk Usopp asks the Elder Jarul if Nami is his type. Jarul responds that no, his type is older women, which is unfortunate for him because he is the oldest giant in the world. Usopp, then laughing at this silly remark from Jarul, smacks the sword on his head, which causes immense pain for the old giant. So maybe that sword really is lodged deep in his brain. Haruden yells at Usopp for doing this to Jarul, but Usopp is way too drunk to take anything seriously, and he even threatens to just pull out the sword. He is just overall in a great mood because he is in Elbaf, the place where he dreamed of going all his life, and the place that symbolizes his goals and aspirations as part of the Straw Hat crew. Then, we transition over to Road and Gerd, who are looking over the injured castle guards. Gerd questions Road on what exactly he was up to in the castle, and he clearly is a horrible liar because he tries to dodge the question, but he's noticeably sweating bullets. Road just can't let her know that the Straw Hats plan to free Loki, because then he can be roped in with their plan and be punished along with them, which he doesn't want. But he is such a bad liar that Gerd immediately catches on, and then she smacks him in the back of the head with an axe, and she demands that he spills the beans, and he presumably tells everything. Now for the exciting part of the chapter, we switch over to the underworld the realm of the dead, presumably a few minutes to an hour after, and Luffy and Zoro walk up to the giant chained Loki with a key in their hands, and Luffy questions what happened to Loki because he's all injured now. Remember, Loki was gravely wounded by Shamrock's attack with his mighty Cerberus, so he looks to be on the brink of death. The two of them start to unlock some of Loki's chains, but Zoro wants to know if the wounds on Loki are real or not, so he actually kicks the wound. This causes a pained reaction from Loki, but I don't see the point in Zoro doing this. This attack on Loki could have made Loki their enemy, but Zoro doesn't seem to use logic here. After Loki screams in pain, he flops back down, so Zoro takes the responsibility now of unchaining all of the chains, while Luffy is gonna go get a doctor to deal with the wounds. Luffy recognizes that this action that they are taking here to free Loki will get them banished from Elbaf, so he starts to think ahead and to maybe stock up on meat for the road, and Zoro suggests to use the meat from the beasts who are all passed out, these beasts being Loki's pets, but Luffy is strictly against doing this. Remember, Luffy once used Haki on these animals, and when Luffy used Haki on an animal, they are now his friends, so Luffy will never eat the meat from them. Then, abruptly in the sky, we hear somebody yell out, "Please don't do it." That's when we see Haruden and a few other giants in a warship plummeting through the sky, screaming at Luffy to stop. But they're nosediving at rapid speeds straight towards the ground, with no way of stopping. Luffy heroically uses Gum Gum Balloon to stop their fall, but since he's a balloon, they bounce right back up because of how fast they are going, so they still receive injuries anyway, but at least they didn't die. Then Haruden, all bruised up from his fall, sits down and talks to Luffy, explaining that Loki is evil, cunning, untrustworthy, and ruthless, and they must not free him. Luffy, with a face that looks like he's holding something back, doesn't say anything until Zoro walks up behind them and says, "I'm afraid it's too late." He says this because he has already done it. He has already unlocked all of the chains that restrain Loki, except just one on his leg, and it's too late to go back. Then, as the chains rattle at his feet, the ginormous Loki stands up, making Luffy look like an ant on the ground. The giants all look at this in fear, and Luffy is shocked that he even got up so fast. But Loki is just standing there menacingly. He then reaches out for his weapon, Ragnir, which seems to be a huge axe, and he has a creepy, ominous smile on his face, and it is unpredictable what he will do next. But that's it for this chapter, and there's no break next week, so we'll be right back here in a week seeing what Loki does. I'll admit that this chapter did lean a little heavily into comedy, even titling the chapter a humorous title, but I think that that's just the calm before the storm, the last bit of happiness that we're about to get before shit gets crazy on Elbaf. According to what they say in the legends, Ragnarok has now begun with the freeing of Loki. And I predict, based on the warnings that were given in this chapter, that Ragnarok may have something to do with fire and lightning, because those are Elbaf's biggest weaknesses. We still don't know if Loki is truly evil, because everything we've heard about him has been through word of mouth, but we're about to see in next chapter what he's actually like. We'll see if Luffy ends up regretting or being proud of his decision to free this insane, unpredictable giant. The one thing that I was disappointed by in this chapter, though, was the lack of the God's Knights, But we can just assume that Oda is saving them for when the mood switches into a more dark, dreary mood, which, by the end of this chapter, it already kind of has. So if you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching, like and subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.